fueling your internal motivation, that shouldn't just be like a one-hitter quitter. That should be something that you do at all times. You should always fuel your internal motivation, regardless of whatever is going on in your life, death, birth, a bankruptcy, whatever it is. You should always be fueling your internal motivation. You should never let anybody or anything make you not be motivated. To stay motivated in life is to start taking care of yourself in the morning time. Do not wake up chaotic, because if you wake up chaotic, how can you stay motivated? And when you got a lot of negative things in your brain, that slows down your motivation. See, most people don't have that resilience, that strong skin right off. So that's why I'm telling you, please do not tell anybody what you're doing. Always tell yourself what you're doing. You don't have to have an audience. See, when you try to fuel your internal motivation, the only audience that you need is you. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. So today is my very first live, and I'm like really excited about this opportunity to actually help serve you and to help guide you in the pursuit of how to fuel your internal motivation. I only have a few things here. I got my computer, which I'm looking at right here. And then I got my phone with just like some little random notes on here to kind of guide me. This live right here is an actual live video. It's not scripted out or anything like that. This is going to be all authentic, and this is going to be in the actual pursuit of helping you guys actually fuel your internal motivation. So if you see me kind of looking to the side over here, I'm only looking at my notes on my phone so I can stay on track here, so I can help better serve you. I would like to thank those good people who participated in the poll that I had announced about 2 or 3 months ago that kind of led up to this particular topic right here that we're going to be discussing today. If you guys have any questions, I'll look at the comments and I'll be happy to answer any kind of questions that you guys may have. If my camera is kind of blaring a little bit, I deeply apologize about that. Without further ado, let's get into the topic of how to fuel your internal motivation. The very first thing to do when you're fueling your internal motivation, guys, is going to be start by taking care of yourself. And what I mean by taking care of yourself, that basically implies that you get a good night's sleep and you don't wake up to chaos. Because see, a lot of us humans, we wake up to chaos. We wake up to babies crying, your spouse is upset, something is wrong at work, you wake up to check your phone, your friend on Facebook done got a divorce. See, when you wake up in a situation like that, that makes it really difficult to even think about fueling your internal motivation. When you wake up in a chaotic environment like that, your brain isn't apt to adapting to the particular situation. Your brain wants to kind of go around like in like negative ways whenever you wake up in a hostile environment. The way how you take care of yourself is setting yourself up the night before. And I kind of previously covered this a little bit right before my technical difficulties happened. The best way to go about setting yourself up is to set things up the night before. For example, let's just say if you got 2 kids, your son has soccer and your daughter has t-ball. Now, you know your kids have to go do this after school. Now, if you're trying to fuel your internal motivation, the best thing to do so the next morning isn't chaotic. The way how you start the morning is basically going to be how you end the morning. If you think about it, when you wake up in the morning time and all things are feeling good, you got a good vibe, you got a good spirit, your whole day is going to go so much smooth. It's going to be like you're gliding on ice. If you wake up and then you get to fighting with your boyfriend or you cuss your mom out or something like that, typically your day is going to kind of spiral down. And then you'll get mad and wonder why you don't get a break in life. You wonder, why me? Like, why does everybody else in life get a break but me? And the reason it appears to be that way is because you haven't set yourself up for success the night before. Let's go back to our example where you have 2 kids. One kid is doing one sport, the other kid is doing the other sport. The best way to set yourself up is going to be to get all of their equipment together. Get all of their balls and bats and stuff like that. So that way you're not running around that next morning like a chicken with your head cut off before you drop the kiddos off at school. Because you know, once you get there from school, you got to immediately take your first kid to practice. Then immediately after that, you got to go and take the next kid to practice. If your brain is overly consumed because you didn't pre-prep the night before, you're not going to be really motivated to achieve your internal motivation that you really want to achieve in life. You're not. I'm sorry. It just doesn't work out like that, because the brain only can hold so much capacity. Do whatever you need to do to set yourself up for success. See, only you know what you need to do to set yourself up for success. I can tell you what to do, but you realistically know because you know your schedule. Like, nobody could tell me how to really set myself up for success more so than me. It's just my job as the gentleman, as the human here, to do what I need to do to make sure that I am set up for success. Because if I'm not set up for success, then I'm not going to be able to be motivated to fuel any kind of internal motivation in my life for anything. After you have pre-prepped the night before, so you know if you got stuff to do that next day, go ahead and pre-prep yourself the night before. Pack your lunches, pack all the sporting goods stuff up. Do what you need to do to be that best human that you possibly can be. So that way, when you wake up that next morning, you're not waking up in chaos. The kids aren't waking up screaming, "Mom, Dad, where's my wiffle balls? Where are my baseball bats at?" Everything is already in position. Yes, you may have to stay up, an hour or two later after your kids and your spouse go to bed, but that's okay, because you are the one trying to fuel your internal motivation, not your spouse, not your kids. You are the one who wants to fuel your internal motivation. And that's why I'm here to help guide you do that. And some of these steps that I'm talking about may seem so unorthodox. You may have never even considered them, but that's okay. Not just one way, it's multiple ways. And the way how you do it is the way that resonates with you the best. So hopefully what I'm saying to you right now is actually resonating with you. Once you wake up in a calm, collective environment, you already got yourself set up for success. You already got yourself set up. You already got the kids' stuff already ready to go for that next day. You're golden on that. Now, the next thing that you need to do, don't look at your cell phone. Immediately start meditating. Because see, when you meditate, that also helps you get your brain together. That also helps relieve any kind of anger or frustration or any kind of sour issues or sour feelings that you may be experiencing in life. Because once you meditate, what that's going to wind up doing, that's going to actually motivate you to fuel your internal motivation. Because see, meditation isn't necessarily like praying. It's not like, Nam Re Nam Shanki. It's nothing like that. It's not where you're actually praying. It's not like that. Meditation is where you're kind of basically pre-planning out your next steps. So when I meditate, I think to myself, what amazing things am I going to do today? Like when I meditated this morning, I thought like, okay, I'm going to do really good on this live. I'm going to make sure that I cover all the I's and cross all the T's and dot all the I's and make sure that I'm actually here to help people here in my group. When I meditated, that was what I was thinking about. So now I'm actually live right now and I'm rocking and rolling with it. Even though I had technical issues, but because I meditated, those technical issues that I had plays no part to me because I'm right back live. It took me another 5 or 10 minutes to get back, but I am right back live. See, that's what I'm saying. See, when you meditate, that helps eliminate any kind of cloudiness in your head. That helps eliminate any kind of fuss or any kind of additional chaos that you may be going through. I do recommend when you wake up to meditate for at least 5 to 8 minutes. That's going to be like a really good starting point. I don't recommend to do like I do, where I do like 2 hours a day when I meditate. I like achieving like grand things in my life, and I like being really fueled, and I like being really, really motivated. So that's the reason why I take it above and beyond when I meditate. But I don't recommend that you do that right now until you have kind of a rapport built up with meditating. Because if you don't have that meditation rapport built up, then what's going to wind up happening, you're going to wind up getting like all upset because it's not going to like work out the right way for you, because you're not going to really understand it. Please make sure that you do meditation. meditation is going to be the absolute best way to help fuel your internal motivation. The next thing I recommend, now this is all still step one. This is still the very first step, and that's going to be taking care of yourself. It's a lot in these very first steps, and then we'll get into what the average person is ready to listen to about achieving the goals and things like that. But you got to set the footing up first, and that's what we're doing with this very first one, because we got to take it in baby steps. Because if you try to run before you can walk, you're going to always fall, and I don't want nobody to fall. So we're going to take it real slow, and we're going to get to the end destination right here today together. Once you meditate, I recommend to journal, because once you journal, that's going to make it where you will be able to achieve the grandiose things in life, because you would have written it down on paper. Because anything that you prophesize on paper, 99.9% of the time, it will come true if you take the action that you need to do. See, most people don't take the action, and then when they don't take the action, they don't get the results that they're looking for, and then they'll try to blame other stuff and other people and other things like that for their lack thereof. But it's nobody's fault but their own fault. When you journal, I don't recommend to journal anything crazy, like don't journal, I'm such a loser. Don't journal nothing like that. Journal things like, what am I going to achieve today? Okay, so dear journal, today I'm going to achieve this. I'm going to achieve where I went out and talked to 15 random strangers. I'm going to achieve 15,000 extra dollars in my business. See, when you journal, don't write nothing meek. Don't write nothing. Well, I'm just gonna just go to work today. No, 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 no. You need to be more motivated than that. And see, that goes back to when you wake up in a calm environment, that's when you're more motivated. When you wake up in a chaotic environment, that's why it is absolutely imperative that you wake up in a calm, collective, cool, smooth type of environment. Once you've meditated, once you've journaled, the next thing that you need to do is you need to actually eat a good solid meal. A lot of people think drinking a Mellow Yellow and smoking a Newport is for breakfast. That is not a breakfast. That is not a healthy, balanced breakfast. It is not. So you need to eat you something every single day, because if you don't eat you nothing, then you're going to be hangry. And then how do you think you're going to be able to fuel your internal motivation? See, in order to fuel internal motivation, you can't have anything excessive going on up here, because motivation comes from in your heart. So if you got stuff going on in your brain, your heart is not going to be in it. It's not going to be motivated to do what you need to do. So you first got to start by getting your noodle together. Once you get your noodle together, then everything else will fall in line like Klinko blocks. It has no choice. The universe will let everything kind of compound together for you and to allow phenomenal and magnificent things to happen to you in your life. I guarantee you it will. But you just have to set yourself up for success, because most people, again, set themselves up for failure and then wonder why they don't achieve the greatness that they deserve, or that they deserve, or they feel that they deserve, that they feel that they could get out of life. You can't achieve that if your brain is all discombobulated. Those steps right there are going to be compiled to make the very first step, and that's going to be start by taking care of yourself. So we're done with the very first step. So now we've woken up in a very calm, cool, collective environment. We've meditated for at least 5 to 8 minutes. Then we've journaled for at least 3 to 4 minutes. Now, let's get into the really nitty-gritty stuff. Now, the second step in fueling your internal motivation is going to be choose your why. You have to choose your why. This is where most people like to start. If you start with your why, typically a whole lot of times you're not going to really achieve that, because you started with the wrong thing in mind. You started with why. You don't need to never start with why. You need to start with me. Start getting yourself together. Start with you, like me, the person. Start with yourself. And then you choose your why. Let's talk about choosing your why. The reason why you choose your why is going to be, that's the actual backbone to make things happen. So for example, if you don't have a why, you will just spiral on off into Pluto somewhere, and then you won't be able to achieve that goal of fueling your internal motivation. So again, you have to choose your why. And when you choose your why, I recommend personally to choose a why that is for you. Don't try to choose a why for your wife, or don't try to make your why be something for your kids, or don't try to make your why be like trying to achieve a car, or trying to achieve a house. Those are really good goals and those are admirable, but that why isn't strong enough. Your why needs to be something really, really significant. Like, what I mean by really significant is, so when I started my business right here, TonyReedCo, about 4.5 years ago now, when I first started that, my why was just so I can get us a different house. That was my why. We had already lived in like a really nice posh kind of house. Then I wanted to elevate myself and take myself up to the next level. Most people would think that's a real good goal, to get you another house, to elevate from one house to the next house. But that wasn't a strong enough why in my life. It wasn't. And then what wound up happening was I never did get that $800,000 house that I was trying to get, because that why wasn't strong enough. I didn't get it right then. I didn't. And what wound up happening was, because that was a weak why, the universe just let that particular house pass me. And then what happened was my wife wound up getting sick. She wound up coming down with Crohn's disease. My why initially was the fact of getting this other house. But then once my wife got sick, and then once my wife wound up losing her job because of her sickness, I was like, shoot, man, me just trying to worry about this house, this $800,000 house, that's irrelevant right now, because we got a beautiful house. I need to make sure that I take care of my wife. I need to make sure that I'm the man that I need to be for my wife, so that way I can give her the proper care that she needs and that she deserves. Once I change my why from a home, from like a material object, to something really tangible, like me wanting to make sure that my wife got the proper care, that fueled my internal motivation. That made it to where my content level went up so high. My podcast started getting more views. I started getting more subscribers on YouTube, because my motivation for internal motivation was fueled. My why was strong enough, and that why was to make sure that my wife had the proper care that she needed. To make sure, that was my why. And that why right there, guys, was so strong that my motivation, my internal motivation, got fueled. It did. It actually got fueled. It got fueled just like gasoline on a fire. You just poof. It was so amazing to watch all of my stuff come true that I had been prospecting for in life. So I didn't get that $800,000 house right then. I wound up getting it like a year later. But I had to get myself fueled internally with the correct why. See, that's the reason why I said, whenever you're trying to fuel your internal motivation, you cannot start with the why. You got to start with yourself first, then transition to your why. Because if you don't have yourself together, so just think about it. If I didn't have myself together, and then I didn't take care of myself, if I didn't journal, if I didn't meditate, then I started with the why, and my wife got sick like that, man, I would have been all discombobulated, because I wouldn't have had a solid footing to rest on, to make sure that I had the adequate things needed done that would make sure that I achieved that particular goal that I was trying to achieve in and with my life. Once you choose your why, and your why is strong enough, you will be able to achieve anything that you want to achieve. You just have to make sure that your why is strong enough. If your why is strong enough, I promise you, you can do anything. But again, if your why was weak like mine was initially, just worried about trying to get a materialistic thing like a car or a house, again, that's admirable, but that is not a strong enough why to push you to fuel your internal motivation. The reason that you want to fuel that internal motivation, it must be strong enough. It must be something to keep you lit. It must be something where, like, if all things else in life failed, I can rely and look back on this to keep me moving and walking forward in life. Whenever you're trying to fuel your internal motivation, you're going to hear a whole lot of different things that you need to be doing, that you should do, stuff like that. And I guarantee you, they're all going to revolve some shape, form, or fashion around these three things right here that you heard right here live from TonyReedCo. When you're trying to be motivated, you got to keep that motivation hot. You got to keep that motivation on fire. You can't give up. And see, that's going to be another thing right there that's going to segue us to the third point. And that's going to be to continue to stay motivated. Whenever you're trying to fuel your internal motivation, you have to always continue to stay motivated. When you stay motivated, what that's going to do, that's going to keep you moving forward to the next level. Because see, sometimes once we go through live events like this where you're actually getting help on motivating and actually having a better life, sometimes we can kind of get off track a little bit and not do the particular steps that's needed to be done after the event. Because see, fueling your internal motivation, that shouldn't just be like a one hitter quitter. That should be something that you do at all times. You should always fuel your internal motivation regardless of whatever is going on in your life, death, birth, a bankruptcy, whatever it is. You should always be fueling your internal motivation. You should never let anybody or anything make you not be motivated. To stay motivated in life is to start taking care of yourself in the morning time. Do not wake up chaotic, because if you wake up chaotic, how can you stay motivated? And when you got a lot of negative things in your brain, that slows down your motivation. See, most people don't have that resilience, that strong skin right off. So that's why I'm telling you, please do not tell anybody what you're doing. Always tell yourself what you're doing. You don't have to have an audience. See, when you try to fuel your internal motivation, the only audience that you need is you, yourself. You don't need no audience. You don't need your mom's approval, your dad's approval, your child's approval. You don't need nobody's approval but your own approval. You are enough. So as long as you have approval from yourself to yourself, you have absolutely nothing to worry about. You will always be able to stay motivated. And see, I know most people want to say stuff to other people like, oh, yeah, I got to just tell somebody what I'm doing. That is the worst thing you can do, is try to tell somebody what you're doing, because most of the time, the people who you are dying to tell what you're doing, they not going to understand what you're doing. If I was to go up and tell like some people, even people in my family, like, hey, I'm finna go up here, I'm finna write my third novel. They're gonna be like, man, Tony, that's gonna take away time from you and your wife, right? And then what that would do, that would make me think in my brain, man, this person is right. I ain't gonna be able to spend time with my wife for the next 3 months, because I'm going to be doing research and I'm going to be doing this, I'm going to be doing that. Man, let me not even write this novel. The world isn't ready for another novel. I just came out with a novel 8 months ago. Why would I want to write another novel? You see, that's the reason why I say don't be telling people what you got going on. If you tell people what you're doing in life, they can try to throw a little roadblock. And sometimes they might not even be meaning to try to even throw a roadblock. Sometimes they can just be meaning like really, really well, like really good things in life. But then when you hear that little roadblock, some people, once they hear that roadblock, they'll turn and go the other direction, and then they won't be able to fuel their internal motivation. That motivation that you're fueling should be strong enough to make sure that you don't quit. See, that goes back to, again, what we talked about, the very first two. Start with taking care of yourself and then choose your why. That's the reason why I said do not start out by choosing your why first. Like most people tell you to, if you want to fuel your motivation, start with your why. That is the wrong way to start. Start with getting yourself together, then go to your why. Then you need to learn the steps to how to continue to be motivated. Because if you learn your why and you got all of this knowledge, but you're not motivated, with it. That's just like having a Bugatti with no gas in it, sit in the garage. What's that gonna do? Besides sit there and look good. You just got a $3 million car just sitting right here. You can't even do nothing with it here because it's missing gas. When you got internal motivation, your why is going to be so much stronger. It's going to make so much more sense. It's going to be so much impactful. It's going to be so much impact like a train hitting a semi, like a whole bunch of impact. See, in life, you got two choices. Either you have a good life or either you have a bad life. Everybody can have a good life, but the average person sometimes don't necessarily want a good life because they don't want to go out and do what they need to do to have a good life. They look for other people to come bring them the good life. Like they look for their knight in shining armor to come and save them. The only person who can save you is you. I'm like Mel Robbins on this. Only you can save you. Nobody is coming to save you. Nobody. No prince, no queen, no king, no jack, no spade. Nobody's coming to save you. And if you want to fuel your internal motivation, you have to be able to come save yourself. You have to know what to do. And with these steps that I just laid out for you, these 3 simple, easy steps, let me go back over them again. Step 1 is going to be to take care of yourself. That's going to be to journal, to meditate, to make sure that you pre-prep the night before, so that way when you wake up, everything will be so smooth like ice, and then you don't have to worry about anything. Then choose your why. Choose a strong enough why. Don't be trying to worry about no car, no house. Don't worry about nothing material. Look for something that is realistic. Look for something that will give you meaningfulness. Look for something that has sustenance. Make that be your why. And then always remember to stay motivated. If you do these things right here, I guarantee you that you will be able to fuel your internal motivation. Nothing to be able to stop you. No force in nature or nothing like that will be able to stop you, because you will be unstoppable because you decided to fuel your internal motivation. And that about wraps it up for today's live streams. Until next time, I'll catch you later.